Hi, on the Woodpecker today, as you can see, the door is in place. But I won't talk about this in this episode. But I will tell you how we make the impost, the moldings, and how we took care of the door. In my last episode, René and I managed to assemble both side lights. Now we will finish it all. The next thing to do is the impost on top of the door. I begin by ripping the glue ups I made over 6 months ago and make sure it's straight. I glue those new pieces together to make some wider planks. That I didn't foresee when I started this endeavor. This means that we have to wait for the glue to dry to be able to surface this new glue up. But when the wood is at the thickness I was aiming for, I had a moment of doubt. I planed some scrap to the desired thickness and also use a scrap piece and make it the shape of the raised panel. We don't like this. I redo another test with a thinner frame and another scrap raised panel. We like this. This means that we can cut some wood for the raised panels. Good. We have the wood for the raised panels, but I still need to plane my last glue up thinner now. Now that they are at the right thickness, they need to be ripped to it. Finally, I cut them to length. We're not done cutting. We still have to rip the raised panels to the right width also. Then I cut one end straight on both pieces. I laid a small end one beside the other so I can trace the length of the raised panel and cut both of them at once. We check if it's the right length, and it's not. After a good fit, it's time to route some coves. I begin by the end grain. Then it's time for the edge. When all the corners are routed, I move the fence back and route the cove again. As you can see, I'm using a scrap piece to keep the piece straight when I route the end grain. When I'm done, I move the fence again for the last time and make the last routing pass. Then we can start assembling the case of the impost. As a matter of fact, for now, this will look more like a flower bin than anything else. We glue and pin both small ends, the bottom, and one raised panel. Then I clamp this and wait for the glue to dry. When it's dry, we cut some strips of insulation. I spray glue and glue this to another strip. I repeat this several times before gluing the other raised panel in place. As a matter of fact, we glue it in place exactly like the other side. When it's well pinned, I clamp this again and wait for the glue to dry. Then we try this in place. This doesn't enter in its opening. Because of the pins, I can't pass this onto the jointer. So I have to use my sander in Rotax aggressive mode to remove a bit of wood. To help insert the impost in place, I'm also using a clamp to push apart the wood, and now this is fitting in place. Now with the impost in place, it's time to take care of the moldings. I put a quarter round router bit in the router, and we do the moldings that will go around the impost. When all the corners are rounded, it's time to cut the quarter round moldings out of it. We have more moldings to do, but this time to hold the side lights in place. But for them, we're going to use this piece of cedar from the original door frame. But I won't bother to strip or sand it. I will just pass it through the thickness planer. But those moldings will be cows. Since we have to remove more wood than on a quarter round, we do the coves in 2 passes. When all 4 corners have a cove profile, we rip them out. It's now time to cut the moldings to size. We begin with the impost. After making a 45-degree cut, I bring this in place, mark its length, and cut the other side. I put it in place and do the same for the long side. While we were doing this, we didn't realize right away that we were being watched. But nonetheless, we still have to continue with the moldings. We thought of making coves for the window openings, but we decided on a quarter round instead. So we do more quarter rounds. When we have enough, we can cut them. But everything's the same as for the impost. The only difference is that there are 2 openings instead of 1. So, twice the cuts. But at this moment, we couldn't help ourselves. We had to try the glass pane that we just received. The good news is that they're at the right size. But we're still not done with the 45-degree cuts. We still have the moldings of the side lights to cut. Needless to say, we measure and cut them the same way we did for all the rest of the moldings. Eventually, all the moldings are done. To lay the door on my workbench, I was lucky that a bunch of subscribers came to visit. This was so much easier than with just René and me. And with the door on the workbench, we can begin stripping its finish. We both use a different size sander and we sand all the straight surfaces. While doing this, I noticed a crack on a raised panel. I poured some instant glue inside it, but I realized there was more than just one crack. I filled the other one also. But the sanding is not done yet. I'm using the linear sander to remove most of the finish on the coves of the raised panels. But then, it's still not over. We have more profiles to take care of, but for those, we're forced to use paint stripper. René brushes the paint stripper while I use different types of scrapers to remove most of the original finish. I even used my turning tools. They had the right shape. On some parts of the cove, I use a round scraper. When I can't scrape anymore, I'm using steel wool. The last step is to sand this. Then we have to repeat all this on another section of the door. But unfortunately, when we're done stripping the original finish, we have to resand every flat surface again. The paint stripper stained the sanded wood. But I'm taking this opportunity to sand with a finer grit. To work on the other side of the door, we find a neighbor to help flip the door. But on this side, we don't make the same mistake. And we begin by stripping the original finish first. René brushes it on, and 15 minutes later, I scrape it off. We synchronized ourselves, so when I finished scraping, the next paint stripper was there for 15 minutes already. This door is quite heavy and was lifted with a forklift and was damaged. As you can see, badly. If I measure the depth of the dent, I'm near 1/4 of an inch. So I'm going to remove some wood from all 3 raised panels. For this, I'm going to use this sled that I built for my router. But it's not moving as smoothly as I would wish, so I spray the same product I use on my tools to make them slippery. Now that I'm happy, it's time to make some dust. I'm super happy that I received my new dust mask from Parcel Safety the day before. I already own another of their dust masks, but this one has the advantage of having a full face protector also. With all the dust that I'm making, I'm super happy. If you wish to get your own full face respirator or any other respirator product from Parcel Safety, here's their website, and you can use the promo code Woodpecker for a 15% discount. I didn't want to remove too much wood in one pass, so after the first pass, I still have a hole. So I lower the router a bit and do another pass. But this time around, I move the router in the same direction as the wood grain. When I'm done, I can see that one of the raised panels has a bad glue drain. I fill it with instant glue. Now we can sand everywhere where we strip the original finish. Just like I did on the other side, I'm using different rubber shapes to conform to the different contours of the door. When I'm done on the end sanding, René and I jump on the power sanding and we remove all that's left of the original finish. Bringing this door to raw wood is not a walk in the park. It took the 2 of us 9 hours of work on each side. Just like for the other side, when we're done with the 80 grit sandpaper, we switch to 120 and resand it all. But we're not finished sanding. We still have the two side lights and all the moldings as well. I take care of the side lights and René the moldings. But it's not all. There is still the impost to sand. The last thing to sand is the frame itself. While I'm sanding it, René sands all the stoppers. To sand the thin section of the door frame, we lay it on the ground. When it's done, we put the frame back in its opening and break all the sharp corners with a cork sanding block. We still have one more thing to do, the exterior moldings of the windows. I spread a thin line of glue and we put the moldings in place. When the glue is dry, we're ready to apply the finish. To help us, we put the door in place and the first thing we do is clean all the wood with mineral spirits. I take care of the door while René is taking care of all the moldings. Maybe it's not that obvious, but there are a lot of pieces to this door frame. But I cannot apply the finish with the clamps in place. I screw the frame from the outside. Then it's time to brush on the first coat of finish. To do less trimming, I unscrew each inch one by one. This way I don't have to be careful around them. But it's not the case with the copper weather stripping. There is a lot of surface on this door frame. This takes a lot of time. When I brush the other side of the door, I do the same thing as before and unscrew 1 inch at a time. It's long enough to be careful of the weather stripping. But it's not done. There are still both side lights to take care of. With both of us, taking care of one panel takes way less time than the frame and the door. But this finish takes forever to dry, so we let everything like that for a full week. After this week of drying, we bring some pieces outside and brush the second coat, but only on the Douglas. So René takes care of the moldings again, and I the styles of the side lights. We also need to brush a second coat on the impost. But that's not all. There's still the frame to take care of. But we know that this will take an eternity to dry, so to rest from all this work, we decided to spend 3 weeks at the cottage. But if you want to see how we put this in place, you will be forced to come back for another episode of the Woodpecker.